everybody excited to talk about boys?
Girl, you excited to talk about boys?
My favorite topic. How's everybody doing though? How's everyone's life? What's up? Update us.
There's nothing to update.
It just snowed here last night.
You snowed.
Okay, cool, good.
And, yeah.
I have my first jury duty tomorrow. I'm like kind of excited, but also nervous.
I hope you get a good one.
I'd rather just be a fly on a wall. I don't want to have to like make decisions. I'm not a good decision maker. So
I hope you get a good one.
Very intimidating.
I hope you get a good one because I can't wait to hear about it.
I mean, I don't think I'm supposed to say anything about it, right? Isn't that part of the...
You can tell if it's a good one or not. That's not telling anything.
Once it's over, you have the ability to talk about it. Like I told you about mine, but you cannot say anything about it while you're doing it. Or you or if you know the person, like you automatically out. You automatically get thrown away. In the garbage.
I feel like I don't know a lot of people, so...
You get thrown away. Yeah, you get chucked out into a bin.
But also, it finally stopped raining here. Thank God.
Woohoo.
For now. It's gonna start again tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day of rain.
Nice. Hopefully it'll stay that way. Maybe it means it'll be like a really beautiful, lush, green spring. Right? That's how it works.
Maybe.
Yeah, April showers bring May flowers.
Yet
Starting in
it's February.
Right?
Yep.
It rained here yesterday, and it was gorgeous. I living out here, I appreciate the rain so much more. So it rained all day yesterday, and then snowed overnight, and now everything just looks pretty.
That sounds lovely.
It's nice. And I don't have to go anywhere
That's
today,
even more
so I'm
lovely.
fine with the snow.
Katie, what's going on with you?
I'm going to Disney tonight.
And by tonight, you mean...
And by tonight, I literally mean it is 10 a.m. in Alabama time. What time are we in? Central?
Yeah.
Question mark. Right now that we're recording, it's 10 a.m. And I am leaving at midnight to drive through the night to make my 9 a.m. fast pass for, of all rides, Living with the Land. I'm not going to miss that. And yeah, so I'm excited. It's going to be a little wild, but we're young. We'll be okay.
We're young.
You can sleep when you're dead.
Yeah, we'll sleep when we're dead.
I cannot go through with that motto anymore. I'm sorry.
I was literally just listening to whatever episode we were talking about where we were like, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah.
And
Sure
here
you
I
can.
am.
You stop and you get you a Starbucks. And
No, you don't.
I can't do caffeine anymore. So I'm just gonna
you're
listen to
screwed.
some podcasts and power through, and it'll be fine.
Are you you haven't cut sugar out of your diet, have you?
I have not, so I will have plenty of sugar.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm gonna get some
There you
decaf coffee and just make myself feel like I'm drinking coffee, and I'm hoping that my brain will be like, "Oh, okay."
It's a placebo effect. You'll be fine.
Sure,
You'll survive on Disney magic. You'll be good.
Yeah.
What else do you have fast passes for tomorrow?
What?
What else do you have fast passes for tomorrow?
That's a great question that I don't know the answer to.
I mean,
I only know.
I can check it on my phone.
I feel like I made them so long ago.
I think that you also need to keep us in the know the entire time you're gone so that we can all live through you.
For sure. So the whole reason that we're going is to make it to the very last day, actually, of the Festival of the Arts, which is the best festival at Epcot.
The best.
The best.
It is. So, yeah, we're headed down for that. And my annual pass this year is also expiring in a couple days. And I wanted to get one more trip in before that because I'm going to take a year off and not renew it because the prices are outrageous just because of Galaxy's Edge. And I'm not interested in Galaxy's Edge. So I'm going to take a year and save some money instead of going to Disney.
I was about to say, Katie, your fast passes tomorrow are Living with the Land, The Seas with Nemo and Friends, and Epcot Forever.
That's right. Yeah, there weren't many fast passes left, so I was like, well, I'm going to go ahead and get a fast pass for Epcot Forever. I don't mind that I can't make more fast passes throughout the day. I'm going to get the best seat possible and really try to like be optimistic and like see this show for what it is and not in comparison to Illuminations.
Have you seen it yet or no?
I have not.
Okay.
So
I need a full review.
You'll have to tell us about it because Stephanie said she was drunk.
Yeah,
when she
Stephanie,
watched
I'll
it,
remind
so
you
she
what
doesn't
it
Also,
remember.
my
like.
nephew is in my ear going, oh my god! So if you just like picture that going on throughout the whole show, you might enjoy it a little more because he was like a serious hype man for this show.
That's great. But yeah, so I guess we're gonna go over to Galaxy's Edge and just kind of walk around too. So that'll be fun.
Just
yeah, I'm
channel
excited.
your inner my graduation trip, Katie, and you would enjoy it.
We talked about this recently. Kelly found some pictures of me wearing a Star Wars shirt, and it's because I watched.
I was so confused.
Right. I did like I watched the first 6 and liked them. And it just wasn't such a huge thing then. Like they had the Star Wars weekends and those were obviously really big, and like for those few weeks in the summer
I missed
it like
those.
took
Those
over
were
the park,
fun.
but other than that it wasn't like Star Wars in your face. I think the in your face part ruined it for me. The fact that they purchased Lucasfilms and turned it into this like, well, we need to make money on this investment, and so here's this movie and this show and this and this and here's we're gonna take this entire park and turn it into basically Star Wars the park.
Star Wars Studios.
So it's just too much for me, and it's really turned me off from it. So, but I did, and
So-
like, I enjoyed it to begin with.
I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of like the Star Wars stuff on like Hollywood Boulevard or whatever that like Main Street is. It just, I don't really get why the stormtroopers are walking through the rest of Hollywood Studios. However,
Because it's Star
I
Wars.
think you're really going to
Studios.
enjoy Galaxy's Edge. Like, the inspiration of it came from, like, the markets in Morocco, which you love. And so you just get, like,
Yeah.
lost in the markets and, like, the theming and the architecture and the painting. Like, it's beautifully themed. Even if you don't care for Star Wars at all, I think you'll just enjoy, like, walking around and kind of getting lost. And there's just lots of, like, cool things to look at.
I'm excited to see it as well.
And also-
yeah.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like the reason that you don't go to like a planet that is in any of the Star Wars stories, why you go to this new planet of Batuu, is because this is like your Star Wars story. So you're not like I feel like it's really not like Star Wars in your face. You're just kind of meandering, making your own story in like a new planet. It's very Pandora-esque.
Okay,
I think you're gonna.
I can
enjoy it.
appreciate
Yeah.
that.
That's what I appreciate about you. I don't know if you guys will believe this, but I have stopped consuming Star Wars media.
What? Why?
Yeah.
On purpose?
You can't see our jaws all just dropped.
Yeah, on purpose. So after I edited our like comeback episode, I felt like a complete idiot for caring so much about Star Wars. So I've completely cut myself off from it.
No, that makes me sad.
It's gonna be for a while, just because I felt really dumb editing that. So, yeah.
It's okay to love it.
I feel dumb.
It's fine. I'm gonna give it a few months of not doing anything Star Warsy or watching anything Star Warsy, and then maybe go back to it.
Cleanse your palate.
Just take Frozen in for what it is.
Yeah, there you go.
Just replace
Do what?
it with something else to obsess over.
Yeah, I'm trying to not
That's healthy.
care about things as much as I usually care about things.
So today, we're going to talk about Disney dudes. You all remember our underrated Disney princess episode. Hopefully you remember it. If you don't, go listen to it. It's gold. Vintage Spilling the Mad Tea. Probably one of the first episodes we started to like find our groove. So today we're going to be talking
Yeah.
about the Disney dudes we find most underrated. I'm really excited
I'll be honest,
to get into this.
I'm not as passionate about like underrated Disney dudes as I was about underrated Disney princesses.
I mean, of course
but
not.
I think we've got like a decent list compiled here.
It was actually surprisingly kind of difficult to like find a good pool of Disney dude characters to pick from, because we didn't want to do animals. We want to save that for another episode to explore. We just wanted to do like Disney guys. We were going to do
Human
princes,
men.
but then that was even more limiting. So it kind of makes me happy that there's a lot more strong females to pick from than male characters.
I think the Jehovah Witnesses just came to my house.
Oh, you can tell them to.
That's
You can go play them our last episode.
We are not interested.
Do you need to hop over
we
the
will
banister
jump
and run
over
away?
balconies. We're not.
I will lick
not
your
about to
Mormon
do
book.
Don't worry. I muted my microphone while the dog was barking. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
Well, Rachel, tell us about your Disney dude.
Okay. So I had trouble picking mine out because when we were talking about it, I had yet to pick out a human the night before we spoke about it. So yesterday I woke up and I was like, this one or this one. So I had chosen between, who did I choose? What was the other person? I don't remember.
Max or Binks from Hocus
No. It was
No?
two,
My bad.
it was, no, that was the night before. No, that was, it was Hero from Big Hero 6. Or it was going to be Lewis Robinson. So I chose Lewis Robinson. And funnily enough, I have a
thing
tattoo.
for inventors, don't ya?
But I have a tattoo that actually comes from the movie Meet the Robinsons. So that was kind of interesting that I ended up choosing Lewis Robinson. So
Spoke to you.
it did. I really appreciate this movie. Kelly fell asleep, but it's fine. And
I saw the
She's
most important
she's not
parts.
salty about that at all. Can
How
you
do you
tell?
know? How do you know what you slept through?
right, that's what I was like. How do you know that you?
Because when I woke up, like everything started happening, and it actually like everything fell into place after I like as soon as I woke up. So I think I skipped an okay
All
part.
right, we'll see. Okay, so Lewis Robinson, if you don't know and never have seen it, he is the main character in Meet the Robinsons, and I don't hear people talking about this movie. I just don't, and it makes me sad because it's a really, really great film. Stephanie found the synopsis for it from the back of the DVD, I think, at this point. I don't know if there was a VHS. But
Well,
it
I actually found it on Disney Plus, but it was the same one that would have come on a hard copy.
well, then that's fine, too. See there? So, basically...
This is from Disney marketing
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah. But the synopsis that comes from Disney Plus and or DVD, it says, have the time of your life in this thrilling adventure that takes you to a new world filled with imagination and surprises. Join a brilliant young inventor named Lewis as he sets off on a time-traveling journey to find the family he never knew. In the fantastical world of 2037, hip-hopping frogs and dogs that wear glasses are as common as talking dinosaurs. In an amazing twist, Lewis discovers that the fate of the future rests in his hands, but he can't save it alone. He'll need every bit of help he can get from the wonderfully wacky Robinson family, who help him learn to keep moving forward and never stop believing in himself. Which is really a nice thing that we can all do. We can all do
Also,
these
it is
things.
not that far from
I just say
2037,
that-
and we are nowhere near talking
I was-
dinosaurs.
No.
I know.
That's exactly what I was about to say. That's only 17
It's
years
never
away.
gonna
That's
happen.
like nothing.
I want my talking dino,
Also,
damn it.
side note, is this when the Jonas Brothers put out that song?
Yes.
It is.
The year 3000.
Yeah.
yeah.
I kept like waiting for it in the movie, but it wasn't there.
It's in the credits.
Oh, I stopped it for
okay.
the credits.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Did you watch this yesterday too?
I watched it this morning
This morning. Oh, okay. Well,
because I had never seen it before.
you never
I watched
seen it
it yesterday.
either? Oh.
Yay! Yeah.
I think
Wow.
I hadn't
I think
seen
the
it
only
either, so yesterday I
reason,
watched it
though,
for the
Rachel,
first
that
time.
we it was such a big movie for us is because it was in the middle of the Joe Bros hype.
Yeah.
And we were like, Jonas Brothers made a song for this movie.
Yeah, you're not wrong. But then it ended up being a really fantastic movie, so that's fine.
Yeah, it did.
So anyway, so Lewis Robinson, definitely underrated to me. I am as old school as it gets, and I did not type an outline out, and I just wrote this on notebook paper. So, there you
Look
go.
at you using ye old pen and paper.
I just make lists, and I write, and I have a planner, and I might as well be 50. No big deal.
It's okay. We're old. We've discussed this.
Right. So, history of the movie. I found some interesting things on ye old Wikipedia. And Meet the Robinsons came out in 2007. It's based on a children's book by William Joyce called A Day with Wilbur Robinson, which I did not know.
Huh.
Me
I didn't know it was
neither.
based on a book.
Let's see. It was the 47th Disney animated feature film, and it was released in standard and 3D. So there's that, 3D.
I do remember it being in 3D. I think I saw it in 3D. Because that was in
Interesting.
3D movies. We're all like,
Yeah.
oh my god.
Everything.
I hate 3D.
Yeah. Everything came out in 3D. I
But
can't stand it.
when it's based on this book, they say loosely based. So loosely based. I don't know. Whatever.
They didn't want to get sued for
Yeah.
stealing the ideas based.
Yeah. However, when Steven Anderson was the director of this film, and it was actually originally titled A Day with Wilbur Robinson. So I guess it was going to be more like the book. And so the production began in June of 2004, and it was scheduled to be out in 2006. Well, while this movie was in production, that's when Disney acquired Pixar, and John Lasseter came on as the creative director. And he changed a lot about this movie. Huge. He said that the villain was not threatening or scary enough. He didn't like the ending. He didn't like a whole lot about it. And so by the time the movie came out 10 months later, 60% of the movie was scrapped and redone. The villain was better. There was a new sidekick. A dino was added, and the ending totally changed.
Oh my god, I didn't realize that had happened.
Yeah.
In 10 months? That's a lot.
Yeah. So then that's when they released it in 2007, and thus Meet the Robinsons was born. Fun fact of this that I found that was kind of interesting, that there were also supposed to be a sequel to Meet the Robinsons. And it was called Meet the Robinsons 2, The First Date. So I guess it was going to go further into his, like, as he was growing up and met all of the people in the family and stuff, which kind of would have been cute to see. But John Lasseter was like, no. And they were also, at the same time, making a Chicken Little 2 and a Aristocats 2 that he also stopped.
I'm kind of glad. Like,
Wow.
there's
Yeah.
too many sequels
Those are
anyway. Like, they should,
unnecessary.
we all know this. They should put their money into originals. I feel like all Disney fans agree too. So, like, good for him. I'm glad he stopped a bunch
That's
of
actually
twos.
what he did, and he said that he wanted to refocus on spin-off films and original productions. That's why he stopped those.
That's funny, because aren't there 3 Cars movies?
That are so unnecessary.
Quite a few Toy Stories.
Listen,
Toy
you do
Story-
Toy Story out of this.
Toy Story is not bad. Those are fine. But that is that. And so here we go into the reasons as to why I feel like Lewis Robinson and this whole movie in general is underrated. I think that everyone needs to see this because it's what he goes through in life is very closely related to what your normal everyday human can go through. His mom left him in front of an orphanage when he was a baby. He never knew her. And that was a big plot of the film, was that he was like, I kind of want to go back and see if I can change it and see if she can, not leave me there. But he goes through and he starts, discovering, oh, I like to invent things. And so he starts doing that. And families that come and try to interview him for adoption, they don't care for that very much. Says he goes through, in the movie, he goes through 124 adoption interviews, and he's only 13 years old. And that's really terrible.
That's so sad.
Yeah. Because he's so cute! But then the movie kind of really picks up and goes when he invents this memory scanner device, and he takes it to the science fair, and then all of a sudden this random homie comes waltzing up with poofy hair, and it's Wilbur Robinson. So clearly he doesn't know who Wilbur Robinson is. But and then the movie just kind of starts, and he's running from the villain, which is the bowler hat man. And so that's kind of the base of the whole movie, is they're trying to get... Wilbur comes to him in a time machine that he actually invents, and he's not aware. And so the whole movie is just him trying to fix this time machine so that everything can go back to normal the way that it was. But he also... so he goes through and he learns, and he meets... Through all this, he meets Wilbur's family, and he decides, oh, I need a family. I like this family. Yet, once the family finds out who he really is, they don't really want anything to do with him because he's going to mess everything up. But he's gonna mess everything up if he doesn't fix the time machine and get everything else back to normal. So he does this. He fixes it, and he's able to find happiness within what he's doing. And once he finally gets back, he really understands, like, hey, I'll go through all these bad things, but look what I was able to do. And, like, at the end of the movie, he's invented all these things, and he's made this whole world, and he's got this family that's better than he could have ever imagined. And it really just talks about being able to believe in you, even though you're going through some shit. And that's really important in everyday life. So, moral of the story is that, like, he goes through some things, but he learns what makes him. And I think that's very closely related to us in everyday life. And that is why everyone should watch this movie, because it just, like, it makes you think, like, yeah, whatever you may be going through, it sucks, but you're strong enough to get through it, and you're strong enough to make life better for yourself. You don't have to depend on anybody else.
You don't need no man.
Or woman.
Or money, or woman, or family.
You just have to be the man.
Yeah. So I really appreciate Lewis Robinson. There's a message in this movie for everyone. It doesn't matter what you're going through or how bad it may be. Like, I just think that it can really take you, it can put it in perspective for you.
I like that.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought this movie was really cute. It was very heartwarming.
Yeah, what's your impressions,
and then the
two
quote
of
at
you
the end,
who watched it as adults?
I wasn't crazy about it.
I liked it. Like I said, yeah, I don't think I'll watch it again anytime soon.
I'd watch it again today.
It's not like a repeatable movie for me. And I was fine. Like, it was heartwarming and cute. And then the quote at the end came up on the screen, and I started crying like a little baby because I can't handle anything that has to do with Walt Disney. Yeah. So that was what got me.
The quote at the end of the movie's huge.
But it was cute.
Yeah. So throughout the movie, apparently they make it to where obviously Lewis / his grown-up name is Cornelius. So they make it to where
that was also weird.
They changed his name.
I was like, why his name got to change?
Yeah, that is weird.
But they bring it to the movie that he makes up this quote, keep moving forward, keep going, keep pushing, whatever. Well, my tattoo on my arm says keep moving forward. And it's a good reminder of everyday life, obviously. Keep doing what you're doing. But at the very end of the movie, the quote pulls up and it says, around here, however, we don't look backwards for very long. We keep moving forward, opening up new doors. and doing new things because we're curious, and curiosity keeps leading us down new paths. And that's a Walt Disney quote. And I took the keep moving forward part because yes, it's a Disney thing, but it also is it's just there for me to see.
It's a good reminder.
And so, and it's very visible and very wonderful. And I think it's probably my favorite tattoo that I have. But yeah.
I really like the tie to Disney because I feel like that character is almost like loosely based on like Disney and his like, well, you know, I got to make my own thing. Like I got to, you know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it a lot.
I like the nod to Tomorrowland
Todayland
in the movie where it says Todayland and it's Space Mountain and stuff. I thought that was cute.
I had that on my list too. But yeah, it just really pulls at my heartstrings, and I just really think that it's a movie that everybody should see. And with you two humans not seeing it till you're grown, I don't know. It stood out to me ever since I saw it the first time.
I'd like a movie about Goob. Yes. I thought he was the cutest little kid in the movie.
It was so cute.
I would like since all the stuff that happened to him, I would like a movie of like him growing up and becoming who he was supposed to be. I thought he was just adorable.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't think it's talked about enough. I think it has a strong message, and that's why I think that he's underrated, because it's something that you should live by, honestly. Believe in yourself, because you honestly can do anything when you put your mind to it.
Good pick.
Nice. Well, thanks for picking someone I knew nothing about, because I got to experience a new movie and learn a little something.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
This is secretly just how we're going to get each other to watch the Disney movies that the other ones haven't seen. We need another underrated episode where you have to watch this.
Yeah.
It's research.
It is.
Well, a movie that I hadn't watched in a very long time. Something that Kelly watches, weekly? Bi-weekly?
I watch it a lot.
When I thought of underrated Disney dudes, I immediately thought Prince Philip. He's not the title character of this film. And I just think he deserves a little more attention. So Disney describes this tale of Sleeping Beauty. They said Sleeping Beauty tells the story of Princess Aurora and the evil curse placed on her by the vengeful fairy Maleficent. According to the prophecy, Aurora will prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and fall into a deep slumber on her 16th birthday, from which only the kiss of true love can awaken her. 3 doting fairies, Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather, pose as peasant women to raise the young princess, whom they call Briar Rose, and live deep in the forest where Maleficent cannot find her. One day while riding in the woods, Prince Philip catches sight of Briar Rose, and the two fall in love at first sight. But Rose learns from the fairies that she is a princess and must return to the castle immediately to fulfill her royal duties. There, Maleficent discovers Aurora alone in the tower. The prince rushes to the castle to rescue Aurora, but first he must battle Maleficent, who assumes the form of a fierce, fire-spouting dragon. And I'll be honest, that was immediately what I thought of. I was like, this dude fights a dragon for this girl who just sleeps through the whole movie, and yet it's So that was why he was my pick. This story was basically, versions of this story have been throughout history from like the beginning of time, that there's been like a sleeping girl and they're like, oh yeah, that's where this story came from. But let's say that the Disney version was inspired mostly by Charles Perrault's version entitled La Belle au Bois Dormant. Sure, probably butchered that.
Nice.
You did better than I would do.
The Grimm Brothers tale, which was inspired by apparently the other version, but they're like, nah, this is all us. Anyway, they had a story called Little Briar Rose. So, I mean, at least the name
I love that
carried
name
through.
so much.
But early versions of this story involved rape and cannibalism, which Disney, cut out.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a turn I was not expecting.
Oh,
That
yeah.
sounds more like the other podcasts
Me
I listen
too.
to.
Yeah, so, I mean, good. That would have been a very interesting turn for Disney's, like, third princess movie if they're like, Yeah, so we don't get any of that in the Disney version. But we do get music from Tchaikovsky's ballet, The Sleeping Beauty, which I didn't know this. They didn't come up with any original music for this film. It's all taken from this 4-hour ballet.
Wow.
Cool, right? And so someone went through and like listened to this ballet and was like, oh, this music would fit this scene and this music would fit this scene. And then Disney added lyrics to it for certain songs. They were like, so the people involved musically were like, it would just be way easier for us to write like an original score, because finding music that already existed to like line up with animation was really difficult. But it's beautiful when you watch the movie, and like all of the music just seems perfect. Like it just
does.
perfectly coincides with this like artistic new style of animation, and it's lovely. Part of the reason it's so lovely is because of art director Ivan Earl. And Kelly, if you want to do a little TED
favorite
Talk
artist.
here, you have the floor.
Yeah. Yeah. He is definitely my favorite artist, which I think I've mentioned before, and I
Once
watch
or
this
twice.
movie all the time. Yeah. To me, the art and the way it was made outshines the storyline. Like, the storyline's whatever. It's not that great, but I watch it because it's such a pretty and beautiful film, and it wouldn't be that way without Ivan
You
Doe.
go on ahead, Ivan.
I have a whole book about him.
I really love the way he
Another,
spells his name.
Yeah.
Another like integral part of this movie's like art in animation, I think, is Mark Davis's role. He was responsible for animating Aurora and Maleficent, and I mean they're like beautifully done, and they really complement like the background art really well. I think it's just very interesting to
Yeah.
look at, even if you don't care for the story.
I think, yeah, that was an issue. Like when it took them forever to make this movie, and it cost so much for them to make this movie for that time. And that was one of the issues, was because they made it, I think it was shot in 70 millimeter instead of 35, which was what was normal to the day.
It's like double widescreen.
And yeah, and it was difficult to try to come up with a way to animate these characters to fit in with these backgrounds, so you're not seeing like two different pieces, like you're seeing the characters and then you're looking at the backgrounds. Like everything fits very well with each other, and I think that took a while for them to figure out how to do that, and I think Mark Davis's characters do really well with that.
So the film was finally released on January 29th, 1959. And like you said, because it was made in widescreen, a lot of theaters couldn't show it. So it didn't have a very big release. And it was critically a failure. It wasn't well received. It was also financially a failure. It didn't earn a profit until it was re-released almost 20 years later.
Damn.
Huh.
Yeah. However, all that said, I think they made a great character in Prince Philip. So, first off, when we see him enter the film, we see him riding on horseback. So, first of all, he's very athletic. You also see him stop in the middle of the woods, and he hears Aurora singing and is like, dang, I need to go listen to some more of that. So he's clearly an appreciator of the arts. He demonstrates his talents as a good negotiator, as he's like, yo, horsey, let's go find this girl singing or find out like what this like beautiful song is. And the horse is like, nah. And he's like, how about for some extra buckets of oats and some carrots? And the horse is like, yeah, okay. You know, great reward system. He's just, but then
and it's all positive reinforcement.
Positive reinforcement. But then we later see him change his strategy to negative reinforcement when he's thrown from the horse and he says, no carrots. So, you know, I think he'd make a good father. It's good parenting styles, you know. You don't reward a kid for bad behavior. And then when we finally see him meet Aurora, he's like some stranger that just like bumps into her while she's like going for a stroll singing in the woods. But he's very suave. He's like, hey girl, you know me. And she's like, no, you're a stranger. And he's like, don't you remember? We met once upon a dream. Like, come on, that's smooth. But also, like, it didn't seem creepy, which I think is, like, a big selling point. It's very smooth, very confident. And then he sings to her, and they dance together, and it wasn't lame. Come on, if you were at a bar or, like, walking in the woods and some guy did this to you, you'd be like, this dude's a creep.
Yeah. But if he walks up with them horse riding calves...
That's the first thing I'm gonna look at. Let me tell you.
You're like, oh hey sir, and he does it, and it doesn't seem creepy, and I just think that should be commended. So furthermore, he demonstrates good instincts because you know he fell for this girl, not knowing who she was, but she was the one he was betrothed to all along. He didn't know it, so he's kind of psychic. Fell in love with her anyway.
Oh God.
Good for him. Then he goes back to tell his father, like, yo, Dad, I'm in love with this peasant girl. And the dad's like, no, you're betrothed to a princess. Chill out. And he's like, he's like a modern man. And he's like, Dad, this is the 14th century. He says that, which I love.
Yeah.
And he's like willing to give up the throne for love. Good for you, dude. Good for you.
That's good, but also gross.
What do you mean?
How's it gross?
I mean...
Because it's love.
Too mushy for me.
Well, so
I hate love.
You would think that, like, his dad is all like, no, son, you got to marry this princess. And he's like, no, Dad, it's the 14th century. I love this girl. I'm going to marry her for love. But you're like, like, King Hubert ain't going to fall for this. He's, like, real old, set in his ways. But later, his dad is like, yo, King Stefan, my son don't want to marry your daughter. He's going to marry for love. So he even convinced his dad of it. You know, very persuasive. Good for you, Philip. And then, like, shit kind of hits the fan, and he, like, goes to meet Aurora, but gets captured by Maleficent. That ain't good. But the three fairies come, and, like, they set him free. They, like, cut the chains of the shackles he was being held in the dungeon. And, like, without hesitation, he starts, like, running to Aurora to kiss her to wake her up. And I was like, yeah, go, Philip. Go, Philip. And this was kind of like the part of the movie that I was like, oh, this is what earns him, like, the most underrated Disney dude title. However, I thought most of this was, like, done on his own merit. But upon watching the film, it's really due to, like, the three fairies. They're the ones who come and rescue him from the dungeon. They, like, magically spell his shield and sword to, like, do all the fighting for him. And I was like, well, that ain't great for your, like, for your,
underrated,
your
argument.
cause, Philip. However, upon further evaluation, I'm like, you know what? This guy had, like, the trust and, like, he could be humbled enough to accept help from three women. I'm like, I don't know many men who would do that when they're like, hello, sir. We're going to spell your sword and we're going to help you get the girl. You think a lot of modern men today would do that?
I don't need no help getting no woman.
You think a lot of old-timey men in the 14th century would do that? I definitely
Especially
don't
when
think so.
the way to wake her up is to kiss her without consent. Most men would be like, I can do what I want. Consent, Philip.
Yeah, so I think even though he had a lot of help and didn't, like, defeat Maleficent on his own like I thought he did, because it had been a long time since I saw the movie, I still appreciate the fact that he, like, accepted the help and still made it happen. Good for you, Philip. Good for you. In conclusion, I think he's underrated because the movie's called Sleeping Beauty. When girlfriend just sleeps throughout the movie, she just sleeps.
It's
Should be
she's
called
stupid.
Philip and the
it's
Three
just a
Fairies.
description of her.
Yeah.
Yes,
True.
she's sleeping. Yes, she's beautiful. She
And,
don't do
like,
nothing though.
It's her castle. It's Sleeping Beauty's castle. Why is it Sleeping Beauty's castle? King Hubert said he's the one who built it for Philip and Aurora. You know, I just feel like, I mean, I think men very often, like in society, are not usually the underrated characters. I think we had a lot easier time, like, coming up with underrated characters when we were talking about princesses. But as far as Disney princes, I think he's one of the better ones. And that's why he gets my vote.
I agree. He's a good one.
Yeah, I agree with you.
But I do love that, like, in the, the Festival of Fantasy parade, that he gets, like, a little, he's part of it. He gets
He's fighting Maleficent, isn't
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, he
Yeah.
is. So,
He's like,
good for him.
remember
just
how
feel
I
like-
did this and she just took a nap?
Yeah. I just feel like
She followed a floating green light. Never follow a floating green light or
Right?
any kind of
Stupid.
green light anywhere. Just never do that.
stupid.
Yeah, just
Granted, I think she was kind of in a trance. I don't know if it was like 100% her, like, just following a light. But I will say I liked this. I hated this movie as a kid because I was like, this girl dumb.
I still
but
think she's
seeing,
kind of
like-
dumb.
But seeing it again as an adult, I'm like, this is kind of sweet. Also seeing, like, the remastered version on Disney Plus, all of the colors are so
it's
bright and so
gorgeous.
beautiful. Like, I remember thinking it was a very gray movie as a kid, which I think probably on my old VHS it was. So I would recommend going to watch it again on Disney Plus. It's beautiful. It's lovely, and you get to see it in wide screen. And I don't hate it as much as I did.
I think I'll watch it.
Yeah.
I only watched my movie yesterday. Sorry. Not sorry.
It's okay. I only watch mine too. You know, I don't do movies.
Ollie's getting really antsy. So, Katie, if you want to start talking, I'm gonna go let her
I need
out so
to
she can
pee
poop if she
as
needs to,
well.
and-
We can break. This would
might
be a great
time
break
for commercial break.
for our commercial. Yeah.
There we go.
Breaking for commercial, breaking
Okay.
for commercial.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? It's so easy with Anchor.
Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use.
And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what we're doing right now by reading this ad. We struggled to find the right way to distribute our podcast, and Anchor made it quick, easy, and free. We're on platforms we had never heard of, and that's all thanks to Anchor doing the hard work.
So, if you have been thinking about starting your own podcast, head on over to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start.
And we're back.
And we're back from our ad break, which, let's be honest, we all peed.
Yep.
So as you guys know, I'm not a big movie fan, but this is one of my favorite Disney Pixar films, and it's one of the more recent ones. And actually, the last time when I watched it last night, it was only the second time I've ever seen it, because the first time I watched it, it fucked me up so hard. I was like, well, I'm not going to be watching that again for a while.
Yeah, it's rough.
It is rough. So my character is Hector from Coco. Hector from Coco. Hector.
Hector's a great character. See,
So I love everything about this entire movie, from how visually stunning it is, to the characters, to the storyline, to everything. The description from the back of the box / Disney Plus is, in Disney Pixar's vibrant tale of family, fun, and adventure, an aspiring young musician named Miguel embarks on an extraordinary journey to the magical land of his ancestors. There, the charming trickster Hector becomes an unexpected friend who helps Miguel uncover the mysteries behind his family's stories and traditions. So, Coco deals with a lot of really difficult themes. It's a beautiful, bright, colorful movie, but it's got a lot of somber themes to it, like death, grieving, abandonment. Other Disney films have dealt with these topics, but I think the way Coco handles these is just magical. It's just so well done. I know we're all big fans of Frozen 2, but I wasn't a huge fan of how they dealt with grief in that movie. I feel like Coco handles it so much more delicately and soundly. And it I love everything about Coco. And I love that the complexity of these experiences is celebrated throughout the film, and it's it is complex, and Coco does a really good job of showing that and doing that
in such a way too that kids can understand as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think at the end of the movie, I'm just I want to make an ofrenda. I think it's such a cool, the whole Day of the Dead concept is just so cool, and the way that it's animated and illustrated and brought to life in the movie, it just makes sense, and it's
and it doesn't feel like it's used cheaply. Yes, death and grief and all these things are used to forward the plot line, but it just doesn't feel like it's done as a cheap move to make something exciting or whatever. It feels it's authentic, and it's very it tackled it well. Which is because the movie is inspired by the Mexican holiday, the Day of the Dead, Dia de los Muertos, a holiday where people gather and celebrate and remember the past loved ones and family. Coco is the first film with a 9-figure budget to feature an all-Latino principal cast with a cost of $175 million. The film grossed over $807 million and became the 15th highest grossing animated film of all time at its release. It also won Best Animated Feature and Best Song for Remember Me. I also really like that about the film, is that they did the authentic music style so well, and actually had, you're making a Latino film, you need to bring in people who that is their genuine experience, and I like that about that. So let's get into what Hector. When we first meet Hector, he's seedy con man. I think they describe him as a charming trickster, but okay. Who's up to no good. We see him trying to sneak into the world of the living on Dia de los Muertos. Eventually, he teams up with Miguel and promises a meeting with the famed Ernesto de la Cruz in exchange for Miguel putting his picture on his ofrenda, which would enable Hector to visit the land of the living to visit his family. So, even from the beginning, he's got really, good motives. Even though he's, a little shithead, he's I'm doing this for a good reason, Mm-hmm. And of course, at the beginning of the movie, it makes it just seem like he's I'm just in this for myself. I just want to be able to go to the land of the living. That's all I need.
Mm-hmm.
The first time I think that you kind of see Hector's softer side is when you meet his friend Chicharron, and the final death concept is introduced, and that creates the first sparks of sympathy for his character that's otherwise been portrayed as a con man, which really reminds me of Flynn Rider, how he's not a great guy, but you can't not like him, and as the movie progresses, you like him more and more and more. When De La Cruz is unveiled as the villain, we learn that Hector was murdered. Shortly after, we learn that Hector is, surprise, Miguel's great-great-grandfather. Hector was trying to leave the world of music and fame to come back to his family and his Coco when he was murdered.
Horrible. I just got chills when you said all of that. God.
It was like intense. It was like the first time I watched it, I was like, what? Like, he was
very
it's
twisty.
Like, here you go. Here's murder happening. And they don't like gloss over it. They're like, you murdered him. Like, hey, you're a murderer. And I was like, oh, okay.
And he's the brains behind this De La Cruz.
Yeah, and
like,
you find out that he's the one who wrote all the songs, and like he's like, it's another like big hard topic to cover in a children's film that like people will take advantage and like do whatever they need to do, you know, and like there are cutthroat people out there, and like maybe don't trust everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Hector's underrated because he gets kind of looked over. Like, the movie's main character is Miguel, and even though Hector's there for all of it, like, he's kind of like a side character. I like him because I think he's really like flawed, and it makes him relatable. It makes him human. He's not perfect. He's made mistakes. And I really love that his family, especially his wife or baby mama or whatever she was to him, doesn't just like forgive and forget. She's like, I'm still mad at you. Like, you're gonna have to, you're gonna have to earn this back. And I think that's an important message that gets lost in the glamour of like big family reunions in most films. And it's just like, oh, everything's fine. Like, no, she's like, yeah, you're the love of my life, but I'm still mad at you.
And that's okay.
Oh, I also think Hector's hilarious. He's like good comic relief. I mean, he's not as hilarious as Dante.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, Dante's the comic relief in this movie. But he's so funny. Like, with a movie that could have been so like heavy, he brings these like unexpected moments of joys. Like the first time we see him, he's in Frida Kahlo drag, and it's just so funny.
This is a side note. Have you ever seen the guy that does the voice of Hector?
No.
Oh, he's
Is
beautiful.
he really? Let's go look at there.
His name is Gael Garcia Bernal. He's just very good looking. That doesn't have anything to do with how good of a character.
Yes, it does.
It's Gael and then Garcia and then Bernal.
Oh my word.
He's definitely not who I would picture Hector to be.
Okay, let me just add that to my list of why he's an underrated character real quick. Damn, that man is beautiful. Shit. You go watch that movie again. Just
Then you won't cry and you won't feel.
does he voice him like his singing voice as well?
That I'm not.
I mean, I guess
sure.
I should know this
think
because
so.
this was my movie, but anyway, yeah, that's one of the reasons that I like Hector too, is because he's really talented, but it's not the focal point of his character. It's not like you don't find out until it takes a while before you find out that he can also sing, and of course, obviously, when it's revealed that he's the one who wrote all the songs, but it's like it's very downplayed. It's not like a core part of who his character is. He is also redeemed in the film. I feel like his arc is one of the best. He goes from this like shitty character to like the hero basically, and still retains like his tragic flaws. And then in the end, his family like takes care of him, and he becomes posthumously famous for all these songs that he wrote. Even though like he could care less about them, he didn't care at the end. Like in the end, he didn't care about the fame. He only wanted to get back to his family, and I like seeing that justice of like the Hector versus De La Cruz carrying over into the living world, because his family loves him so much to make sure that he gets the recognition that he deserves. And in the end, he's a family man in the truest sense.
It's so nice.
Good story.
And
I love in
just
the
love
end. I love in the end you see like a group of tourists being taught like who he was, so you know that he's gonna be remembered. I just think that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's like he was so worried about, like, he was almost forgotten, and Coco was the only one who remembered him, and now
Everyone will.
he's never going to be forgotten ever, because everyone's going to remember who he is and what his name was.
And they're going to forget De La
I love it
Cruz.
so much.
Because he's the real shitbag.
So, in my opinion, I love Miguel, and he's an adorable character, but I don't think he's the main character. I think it's Hector's movie.
I don't think so either. It's very, very much so about Hector and how he redeems and gets back to where he needs to be. Miguel just helps Hector.
Even though this movie destroys me emotionally and I cannot watch it. Like you, I've only seen it twice. I watched it when it came out, and then I watched it yesterday. It's such a beautiful movie. Like, I wish I could watch it more often without having a crying, sobbing fest and my face being puffy for the rest of the night.
It is a really good movie for when you need that. Like, I had a very rough week personally, and kind of hadn't processed my emotions from it, and was like ready to watch Coco. Like, I was ready to let this out and like let this movie help me like tap in all those emotions, because you can't help but like feel this movie when you watch it.
Yeah. My grandmother has dementia, so anytime that I watch this, like, I can't help but think about my grandma, because Coco is losing her memory too.
Coco.
Did you watch it with Cameron, or did you watch it by yourself?
I watched it by myself. I needed to watch it by myself. I needed to like and I did. The first time that the only other time I watched Coco, Cameron and I watched it together for the first time, and we both just like sobbed. And it opened up like a really good opportunity for us to like talk about like loved ones that we've lost, and like have that moment to like, because, you know, a lot of times you're just like, oh, don't need to think about that, you know?
Yeah.
And the movie like was a great vehicle for having hard conversations. So Coco's just perfect, and it should have been the highest grossing film of all time, but whatever. And I'm really excited about Mexico Pavilion getting
that's well deserved.
I'm really happy about that.
Mm-hmm.
I'll miss Donde Está Donald, but I think Coco deserves the recognition.
Yeah.
And to be a newer film, like, you don't get that anymore.
And original, like we were just talking about sequels being just so overdone, and it's so original and new and fresh,
lovely,
and needed. And,
Yeah,
I can't say enough good things about Coco.
I think it also really opens a dialogue to children about death, and because I mean, that it's a part of life. You need to talk to your children about that, and I think that represents it in a really good way and makes it easier for children to understand and for parents to talk to it with their children about death.
I really like the trend of Pixar coming out with these movies like that, like Inside Out and Coco, and what's the new one coming? Soul. I think that one's gonna be another one. I like it. Yeah. They're not just like movies to watch and be like.
It's teaching them things, anymore. Like really, really life lessons that need to be taught, and they do it in such a way that parents don't have to like, you know.
Yeah, you don't have to. Parents don't have to figure out how to start that conversation.
Let's watch this movie, and if you want to talk about it afterwards, we can do that.
Yeah, I like that. So for my person, I chose Quasimodo. I just think he's fantastic. So the plot, I took it straight off the back of the VHS that I own, so I thought that was just really cool.
Nice.
At the urging of his hilarious gargoyle pals, Quasimodo defies his evil guardian Frollo and ventures from his tower to the joyous festival of fools below. But the crowd turns cruel and rejects Quasi because of the way he looks. After another outcast, Esmeralda rescues him. Quasi finds himself battling to save the people and the city he loves, while reminding us to see people for who they are, rather than how they appear. And I just love this movie. It's set in 1482 and 1502.
Damn.
And yeah, it's a long time ago. So the history of the movie, it's based on the novel Notre Dame de Paris by Victor Hugo. He wrote this in 1831, and he is also the author who wrote Les Miserables. So, I mean, he's a big deal. This movie,
he's kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
in
he's got
French
a big
literature, whatever.
Yeah. This movie was released in 1996, and it's considered to be one of Disney's darkest animated films, with its narrative explores infanticide, I don't know how you say that, lust, damnation, genocide, and sin, and it still has a G rating, which is
What?
insane.
Wow.
Yeah. So production for The Hunchback of Notre Dame started in the summer of 1993. Read your notes right correctly. In October of 1993, the directors and art directors took a trip to Paris, where they got to explore Notre Dame, and they got a private tour of the rarely glimpsed sites, like actual passageways and stairwell towers, and the hidden room in which Victor Hugo set, like, his story. They also went to the Palace of Justice and the original location for the Court of Miracles. So it's very, I mean, the book is fiction, and it's fiction, but, you know, Notre Dame is a real place, so it was cool that they got to go see that and see where everything was set. The movie is
You
very...
can tell in the movies
Yeah.
that they did that.
The movie is very, very different from the book, which is one of the criticisms that the movie received because it's so different from the book. But I think you can read the book, appreciate it for what it is, and love it. And you can also watch the movie, appreciate it for what it is, and just kind of separate them. So in the book, Quasi has become deaf from ringing the bells so much, and he's really mean. He's not the protagonist. Yeah. In the book, Esmeralda is the main protagonist, which I think is really cool. Phoebus is super creepy, and the antagonist. And Frollo has been changed. In the book, he's the archdeacon of the church, and he's changed to the minister of justice in the movie because they didn't want the religious connotations or the religious backlash from making him the archdeacon of the church. Also in the book, spoiler alert, Esmeralda and Quasi die.
Whoa.
She is not saved.
That
so.
tracks for Victor Hugo.
Yeah, everything's sad.
Yeah.
And also, of course, there's no talking gargoyles for comic relief in the book.
What?
Yeah. Shocker. So Quasi's storyline. We'll jump into the back, and it's dark. It's real dark. So a Romany woman is chased down and killed by Claude Frollo, and he takes what he believes to be stolen goods from her body and discovers that it was actually her child that she was running away to protect. He discovers that the child is deformed, and Frollo is shocked and attempts to throw the baby down a well. Dark.
He is such a creepy
And this is all depicted in the movie. Like, you see, yeah, he really is.
I remember watching that scene as a kid and not really understanding what was happening.
Yeah. The Archdeacon of Quasimodo, the Archdeacon of Notre Dame, stops Frollo from throwing the baby down the well and is told to care for the child to atone for the sin of killing his mother.
Bad call, Archdeacon.
Yeah. He names Frollo names the child Quasimodo, which means half-formed, which, I mean, rude? That is so mean.
That is so mean. That's like naming your kid ugly.
Yeah. And he locks him away in the bell tower of Notre Dame to be raised to ring the bells. So Quasi spends his day looking out over Paris and dreaming of one day being a part of the lives of the people below. Like, there's a whole song about it. That's just what he wants because he's locked away and he has no human contact other
And that's
than
some
Frollo.
bullshit. Because he's mean.
Yeah, he is. He is talked into attending the Festival of Fools by his 3 gargoyle friends, and the gargoyles are named Victor, Hugo, and Laverne, which that's a nod to the author. So he encounters Esmeralda at the Festival of Fools, but he is then humiliated by the people attending the festival. So sad. That scene is heartbreaking. Esmeralda helps Quasi after he is tied down to a wheel and pelted with rotting food, and Frollo just does nothing. He actually becomes mad when Esmeralda helps Quasi up from this wheel, and wants to arrest Esmeralda for witchcraft, basically. So she seeks sanctuary in the Notre Dame, where she spends more time with Quasi and befriends him. He helps Esmeralda escape the church, and Frollo conducts a citywide manhunt for her. And after witnessing Frollo's ruthless tactics, Phoebus refuses to be a part of this tirade and is shot by an arrow while fleeing his execution. Whew. Yeah. So Quasi
Phoebus
hides...
can get it, though. He's so cute.
Yeah, I like Phoebus. Quasi hides an injured Phoebus at Esmeralda's request, and soon Frollo discovers that Quasi was the one who helped Esmeralda escape in the first place. Esmeralda gives Quasi this map. He doesn't know it's a map at the time. It's this little necklace pendant that has a map to where the Court of Miracles is, which is where all of the Romany people are hiding. So Frollo warns Quasi that he knows where the Court of Miracles is and he's about to attack them. He doesn't actually know this, but he follows Quasi and Phoebus because they're going there to warn the people there that they're going to be attacked. But Frollo follows them and captures everybody in the court because he is just not a good guy.
Honestly,
I mean, that's a horrible thing to do,
Esmeralda
but
is set to be...
because he's horrible, that was also smart to get what he wanted.
Yeah.
Heifer.
Yeah. He's very good at manipulating. Esmeralda is set to be burned at the stake, but Quasi rescues her after the pyre has started to burn. He returns her to the bell tower and starts defending the church from Frollo and his men trying to get inside. Frollo manages to get in and fights Quasi on the balcony, causing both of them to topple over the side of the church. Frollo falls to his death. Yay! And Quasi is caught by Phoebus and saved. Quasi can see... What?
Am I imagining this? Does Frollo get swallowed up by hellfire at some point?
He sings a song
they pour
about
molten lava. Yeah, he does sing a song about it.
Okay,
they
maybe
pour
that's what it's from.
molten lead out of the gargoyles' mouths, and he falls into the molten lead. That's a horrible.
Well,
way
he
to
was
go,
a horrible
but,
person,
you
so
know,
it
So
fits.
fitting.
Yeah. So at the end, Quasi can see that Esmeralda and Phoebus have fallen in love, and he gives their relationship his blessing, even though he had feelings for Esmeralda. Quasi finally leaves the cathedral and is seen as a hero and is accepted into society.
Lovely.
That was a long recap.
That was beautiful. I really want to watch this now because I've
You-
forgotten
I
so
think
many of
I'll
those
probably
details.
watch it today.
I think you need to watch it as an adult, and you'll appreciate it a lot more as an adult. So why he's underrated. Despite being manipulated and abused by Frollo for his entire life, Quasi remains kind. He doesn't allow Frollo's treatment of him to make him hardened and repellent to everybody. He sees where there is injustice and does what he can at personal risk to help Esmeralda and Phoebus. He proves over and over again that you cannot judge a book by its cover. And at the end, he sees that Esmeralda and Phoebus love each other, and instead of trying to get in the way of their love, he unselfishly gives them his blessing.
I just love
Very
Quasi.
nice.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. So I got some fun facts if y'all want to hear some fun facts.
I love fun facts.
So the song Hellfire was almost cut from the movie and is considered one of the darkest songs ever written for a Disney movie, which, yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. He sees Frollo sees Esmeralda in the fireplace, which hellfire, that's what the thing is. And he says, "Be mine or you will burn." He just wants her selfishly, or he's going to kill her, basically. It was
What a gross perv.
He is, yeah. It almost became the first Disney animated movie since The Black Cauldron to receive a PG rating, but somehow it received a G rating. Belle from Beauty and the Beast can be seen in the town below while Quasi is singing out there. I think that's a fun little Easter egg to look for.
Yeah.
Got a burp. And Phoebus is voiced by Kevin Kline, who played Maurice, Belle's father, in the live-action version of Beauty and the Beast.
Oh, I don't like that.
I mean, he was much younger when he did his voice.
That's true, but
Yeah.
Weird.
And if you listen closely to one of the Oafish, his in the credits in the movie, he's listed as an Oafish guard. So if you listen to that in the beginning, you'll hear Bill Fagerback. I'm assuming that's how you say his name, and he's the voice of Patrick Star in SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh my god, that's great.
Yeah. So when you're watching the movie, it's towards the beginning. He has a couple of lines, and you're like, "That's totally Patrick Star." Yeah.
Weird.
And despite claiming to be a righteous man, Frollo represents each of the 7 deadly sins throughout the movie. I thought that's a cool thing. Yeah. And there is a sequel in which Quasi becomes friends with Esmeralda and Phoebus' son. And his son's name is Zephyr, which I think is such a cool name.
Ooh, that is cool.
Yeah. And he also falls in love with a woman who sees past his appearance into the kind soul inside. I think the storyline of the sequel is okay. The animation sucks, but it's still worth a watch if you got some time to kill.
I like that he gets a happy ending with the lady.
Yeah. So some personal thoughts. This is one of my favorite movies Disney movies of all time. I think I could watch it over and over again. Same with like Sleeping Beauty, like I said earlier. I love the darker route that it took, and I think the themes explored are super relevant to today. At one point, Frollo's shouting like "silence," like "stop talking," and Esmeralda shouts "justice," and I just think that's one of the coolest moments of the entire movie.
I was Esmeralda for like 3 Halloweens because I loved her so much.
Yeah, I had to.
Looking back, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I had to try really hard not to turn this into an essay about Esmeralda because I think she is one of the strongest female characters that Disney has.
That's not what this episode's about.
Yeah, I know. That's not what this episode's about. So, I also think that Frollo is the most frightening villain in Disney canon to me because he's the most realistic. There were people in history who were exactly like him, and that is terrifying.
Frollo and Hans are just so real.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Because things that, like,
Definitely.
not to talk about
This
Frozen,
sound.
but things that Hans does. I mean, that shit happens
That's fine.
every day to someone.
Yeah. Yeah. And my last personal thought, was the soundtrack for this movie is also one of my favorites. Out There, God Help the Outcasts, and The Bells of Notre Dame are some of the most beautiful songs that Alan Menken and Stephen Schwartz have ever written, in my opinion.
Agreed.
And I love this movie, and I love Quasi, and you should watch it as an adult if you haven't watched it since you were a child, because I think it holds a lot more relevance, and you understand a lot more as an adult.
It's been on my TV since I've been an adult,
Thanks.
but I haven't, like, sat and actually watched the movie.
Yeah.
I
It deserves
had-
some attention.
I had a DVD of it, and I used to watch it a lot, and it got scratched, and so it was like fine until the last 20 minutes, and then it just like cut out, and so I have a very
No
like,
happy
warped
ending
view
for
of this
you.
because I missed the last 20 minutes of it a lot.
Yeah. So that's what I think about this movie. You should go watch it, and thanks for listening to me. I spent way too long talking about this movie.
No, I think, like, I agree. I think Quasimodo is definitely underrated. Like, he has a hard life, but also, like, taught me a lot of lessons as a kid. And, like, I used to watch this movie all the time. And just as a kid, and you're like, oh, like, I get this guy. He looks different than me. He looks different than my friends. But, like, the movie really takes you into his life, and you learn to appreciate him. And you're like, I should be doing that in my regular life with people who look different. I think it's a good lesson.
You go, Quasimodo.
For you, Quasimodo. You go.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on our second installment of our underrated series, question mark.
Yeah.
Please go rate and review our podcast so we can continue to grow our Spilling the Mad Tea family. And like us on Facebook. Join our Spilling the Mad Tea podcast group for the latest and greatest of everything Disney.
Yeah, and let us know what underrated topic you would like us to tackle next. We were thinking about doing some animals. We can do sidekicks. So if you have something particular that you'd like to hear, let us know. And you can do that on Instagram at Spilling the Mad Tea.
You can find us on Twitter. We are Spilling the Mad Tea there.
And you can always email us, who we should have included on this list, at spillingthemadtea@gmail.com.
Yeah, send us your essays.
And don't forget to rate,
Yes.
review, subscribe, all of those lovely things on whatever podcast platform that you listen to on, so that you can be the first to get an update that we have posted something new.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Goodbye.
Adios.
Bye-bye.